Hey, welcome back. In this episode, you're going to learn about how to provision solutions for Azure compute infrastructure. Creating and managing compute resource manually requires much administration time and becomes a repetitive task. So why automate compute provisioning? There are two main reasons. One, faster deployment, and it reduces complexity. So it takes long time to implement an architecture with many servers manually. You need to configure the operating system, install software, configure the software, and apply updates. You also need to do these tasks for each virtual machine, and these tasks can become complex. So when you have to carry out complex tasks, many times it's easy to make mistakes. You might also need to redeploy your architecture. For example, to recover from an attack or disaster, your architecture might need to support software testing. So you need to be able to redeploy it for every testing cycle. If your manual deployment takes several hours, it isn't ideal. So you need some way to automate the deployment of virtual machine to deal with these issues and difficulties. So to reduce the complexity of deployment configuration, create a complete architecture in a form of script or a configuration file. Then deploy it in a single operation. This way, you can automate your configuration to reduce mistakes and accelerate deployment. One of the method is to use custom script extension. The custom script extension downloads and runs script on Azure virtual machines. This tool is useful for post-deployment configuration, software installation, or any other configuration or management task. You can have a PowerShell script that's on your local server, GitHub, Azure Storage, or other locations that are accessible to your virtual machine. The extension looks for the script that should be run on the virtual machine, and the script is downloaded and then executed on the target virtual machine to apply the changes introduced by the script. So you add the custom script extension to the virtual machine through Azure Resource Manager template, PowerShell, or Azure Compute, or the Azure CLI. This is an example custom script extension configuration. The next one is desired state configuration extensions, or it is known as DSC. DSC extensions make it possible for you to deal with configurations on your infrastructure that might need more complex installation procedures, such as reboots. DSC helps you define a state of your machines instead of writing detailed manual instruction on how to achieve that state for each machine. State configurations are relatively easy to read and implement. This is an example that defines a DSC extension handler for virtual machines in an Azure Resource Manager template. The next method is using Azure Automation State Configuration. Azure Automation State Configuration is a service you use to make sure that your DSC configurations are managed properly and deployed across your nodes. Azure Automation State Configuration works on both Azure virtual machines and machines on on-premises as well. It also works with machines on other cloud providers. You can use Azure Portal to apply the configuration to all of your nodes. Azure Automation State Configuration makes it possible for you to ensure that all target machines are assigned the correct configurations automatically. Next method is Chef. A Chef server can handle 10,000 nodes at a time, and Chef makes it possible for you to automate the deployment of your infrastructure and fit it into your workflow, whether on premises or in the cloud. A Chef server is typically hosted for you and runs as a service. And Chef works by using the Chef server to manage your recipes. And recipes are commands to run to achieve a configuration. You can use Chef's knife tool to deploy virtual machine and simultaneously apply recipes to them. You install the knife tool on your admin workstation. which is the machine where you create policies and execute commands. Then run your knife commands from your admin workstation. Next method is to use Terraform. Terraform is an open source infrastructure as a code software tool. You can create infrastructures by using HashiCorp Configuration Language or HCL. This language is created by HashiCorp. You can also use JSON. Terraform lets you create relatively easy to read script templates that defines what type of resources to create, regardless of the cloud service provider. You can build your environment by using different cloud service providers such as Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services. This way, you can ensure that your environment are identical across cloud providers. This process requires you to install Terraform either locally or on Azure, and you can then use Terraform to execute a Terraform script. Another option is to use Azure Resource Manager template. Azure Resource Manager templates are JSON files that you can use to define the Azure resources you want to provision in Azure through object notation. You can define an entire infrastructure this way, and they are relatively easy to read and work with based on your exposure to JSON. With Azure Resource Manager templates, you can make sure that your deployments are consistent. That concludes this lesson. In the next episode, we're going to look into how to plan your virtual network. I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care.